चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरून् श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So we are continuing the list of incarnations of the Supreme Lord from the 7th chapter of 2nd Canto and sloka number 47. We have to start now. Sashvat prashantabhayam pratibodhamatram shuddham samam sadasata paramatma sattvatvam shabdo nayatra purukhara kavan kriyartho maya pratiti abhimukhe cha vilajjamana tadvai padma bhagavata paramasya pumso brahmeti yad vidurajashra sukam vishokam. What is realized as the absolute Brahman is full of unlimited bliss without grief. That is certainly the ultimate phase of the Supreme Enjoyer, the personality of Godhead. He is eternally void of all disturbances and is fearless. He is complete consciousness as opposed to matter, uncontaminated and without distinctions. He is the principal, primeval cause of all causes and effects, in whom there is no sacrifice for fruitive activities and in whom illusory energy does not stand. It's a very amazing definition of the Supreme Lord that is given here, right? So each and every statement makes a lot of sense. So what is realized as absolute Brahman is full of unlimited bliss without grief. You know, the Brahman is like full of Sat, Chit, and Ananda. So this is Ananda, like the full. It is complete bliss. There is no question of any grief or any sorrow in the ultimate Brahman, the absolute Brahman. So absolute Brahman means the Supreme Lord. Or wherever this word Brahman is used in the Vedic text, so it indicates the Supreme Lord or the ultimate entity or the absolute truth and things like that. So these are all interchangeably used in many places. The absolute truth, the Supreme Lord, Brahman, and things like that. So sometimes the Brahman is also identified or indicating the bodily effulgence of the Lord. So that is called the Brahma Jyoti, right? So that is also sometimes called as Brahman. And then sometimes this world is also called as Brahman, Mahat Brahman karke. So why? Because it is energy of the Lord, and just like Brahma Jyoti is emanating from him, in the same way this world, which is made of earth, water, fire, air, ether, emanates from the Supreme Lord. So this world also can be called as Mahat Brahman. So in one sense, that is why the Vedanta Sutras say, Sarvam Kala Vidam Brahma. Everything that exists is Brahman. Why? Because it is either the Lord, he is the Brahman originally, and then or the Lord's energies. They all called as in a unified way, like they are all called as Brahman. So here, when it is called as absolute Brahman, it is the Supreme Lord, right? So what is realized as absolute Brahman is full of unlimited bliss without grief. That is certainly the unlimited phase of Supreme Enjoyer, the personality of Godhead, right? So this is, he is the the Supreme Lord is called as Bhoktaram Eknatapasham Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Bhokta means like one who's the enjoyer. So Supreme Lord is the enjoyer, right? So we are meant for supplying the enjoyment of the Lord, and in that way we can be enjoyed. We can feel enjoyment. So just like we often have taken help of these examples, like watering the root of the tree. root is the actual enjoyer, and by supplying water to the root, all the parts of the tree will become happy. And in the same way, stomach is the enjoyer. By supplying food to the stomach, all the various limbs of the body enjoys, right? So hand works, leg works, everything works, and then finally the food is supplied to the stomach. When the stomach enjoys, when the stomach consumes the food, so then everything else is satisfied. In that way, like Supreme Lord is the supreme enjoyer. He is the enjoyer, and we are meant to supply enjoyment to the Supreme Lord. So that is a position, that is our position, and in that way we can become happy. He is eternally void of all disturbance and is fearless. The Lord is it's completely fearless, and there is no disturbance in him. He is complete consciousness as opposed to matter. So we have, what are we? Like if we call ourselves as a person, so we are a combination of consciousness, the soul, and also the inert matter, the body, right? So the Lord is not like that. The Lord is pure, full and full soul. He is full consciousness. There is no matter in him, right? So he is complete consciousness as opposed to matter, uncontaminated and without distinctions, right? So he is not contaminated any way. So even Arjuna glorifies Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. He says that Adyam Purana Purusham. No, not that. He says that Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum. So he says Pavitram as one of the qualities of the Lord. He's all pure, right? So sometimes the Lord is compared to like sun. The sun may touch filthy areas, but sun will never get contaminated. Rather, the filthy areas by the exposure of the sun will become purified. So that's how the Lord is uncontaminated. By coming in contact with the Lord, by coming in contact with Lord's holy name, we will become purified. We will become purified, right? So uncontaminated, without distinctions. He is the principal, primeval cause of all causes and effects, in whom there is no sacrifice for fruitive activities, and in whom illusory energy does not stand, right? So he is the cause of all causes, sarva karana karanam. We have discussed it many times. And then there is, in whom there is no sacrifice for fruitive activities. That means the Lord is not behind any fruitive activity. The Lord is not looking for any fruits of any activity. And then the devotees of the Lord, the pure devotees of the Lord, they are also not looking for any fruits in return. Like for example, Prahalad, he performed such wonderful devotional service that to protect him, Lord Narsimhadev personally appeared. And then after killing Hiranyakashipu, Narsimhadev asked, "What do you want?" "No, I'm very, very pleased with your devotion." And Prahlad says, "No, my Lord, don't make me like a businessman. I have not done this devotional service to you, to ask something in return. No, I am eternally your servant. You are eternally my master. No, I am completely satisfied just rendering service unto you." Right? So that is that is a mood and attitude, or that is the way the pure devotional service is executed. Right? So there is in whom there is no sacrifice for fruitive activities, right? So he's completely free from all these fruitive activities, to desire something in return for the actions that is being performed, right? So it is not there in him. And no, that is why when the Lord does something, he does it completely without any expectation, completely without any expectation. And the pure devotees of the Lord also do things in the same way, and in whom the illusory energy does not stand, right? So absence of Krishna is illusion, and when Krishna is there, like, no, how can there be any illusion in Krishna? There is no possibility of there is any possibility of illusion in Krishna. That's not possible. Technically or logically, it is completely opposite. So purport: the supreme enjoyer, the personality of Godhead, is the supreme Brahman, or the summum bonum, because of his being the supreme cause of all causes. The conception of impersonal Brahman realized in the first step due to his distinction from the illusory conception of material existence. In other words, impersonal Brahman is a feature of the absolute, distinct from material variegatedness, just as a light is a conception distinct from its counterpart, darkness, right? So it gives an idea of what is impersonal Brahman. Impersonal Brahman is just a glimpse of idea of the Supreme Lord, or absence of illusion. No, when we just understand, okay, this material things are illusion, no, and this body and things connected to the body is illusion. So soul is the eternal, and soul is the permanent thing. So when we come to that step, we slowly realize the impersonal aspect of the Lord. So impersonal aspect of the Lord is what? No, negation of material things is what is the impersonal aspect of the Lord. So that is what is mentioned. No, the conception of impersonal Brahman is realized in the first step. No, that's the first step of spiritual realization, due to his distinction from illusory conception of material existence. So just absence of matter, what we perceive as absence of matter is the impersonal existence of the Lord. And when we try to understand that non-material thing more and more, we come to the point of understanding the personal feature of the Lord, right? So that is how the first step of understanding is the or in the first step in the spiritual grade is impersonal understanding of the Supreme. Okay, so in other words, impersonal feature is a feature. Impersonal Brahman is a feature of that absolute, that is the personal form, distinct from the material variegatedness, just as light is a conception distinct from its counterpart, that is darkness. So absent of darkness is light. That much of understanding if we have, so that is kind of impersonal understanding of the Lord. Absence of material things is what is spiritual, and that is impersonal understanding of the spiritual this one. And but the light has its variegatedness, which is seen by those who further advance in light, and thus the ultimate realization of Brahman is the source of the Brahman light, the Supreme Personality, the Samam Bonam, or the ultimate source of everything. So Sarva Karana Karanam is the Supreme Lord Krishna, whose personal form is the absolute truth, and the impersonal Brahman is just a feature of his body, just his effulgence. Therefore, meeting the personality of Godhead includes the realization of the impersonal Brahman as realized at the first, in contrast with material illusion. Right? So if I meet the Lord personally, face to face, then I can understand the impersonal realization. Yeah, like the Lord is beyond the material things. I can understand that. And more than that, oh, here is such a lovable person. Here is such a wonderful person. And here is such a magnanimous person. Right? So we can get much more than a negation of material thing. When we see Krishna face to face, we can have much more than negation of material thing. It's much better understanding than this one, and it also includes the impersonal realization. Yeah, Krishna is not material. That is obviously that is included within the personal realization of the Lord, right? So the personality of Godhead is the third step of Brahman realization. So why it is called third step? The first canto of Bhagavatam explains. Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam ejnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabjate. So vadanti means people say, like vadanti tat, who is saying? Tattva vid. Tattva with means like is knowledgeable persons. Which kind of knowledgeable persons? Tattvavid, one who understands the absolute truth, one who knows the absolute truth, one who knows that supreme entity. Such Tattvavits, such knowledgeable people, they say. What do they say? Vadanti tat tattvavidas. Tattvam, what is the tattvam? What is the absolute truth? Tattvam, yajnanam advayam. It is not a dual entity. It is one supreme entity is there. One supreme God is very, very clear. The Bhagavatam philosophy talks about advayam. Dva means like like it is two. Advayam means like there is no two entities are there. There is one supreme absolute truth is there. Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti brahma iti. That is Brahman. That absolute truth is Brahma. And then brahmeti paramatma iti. Paramatma iti. And then Bhagavan iti sabdyate. This is what they say. And the first step in God realization is the Brahman realization, or the impersonal realization of the Lord. And then second is Paramatma realization. And third is Bhagavan realization. Right? So as we have seen, Brahman realization means just that is the absolute truth is spirit, and it is beyond matter. That is the Brahman realization. And Paramatma realization is, this is absolute truth is not just beyond matter and it is spirit. It is That absolute truth controls and manages the entire creation, right? So in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord says that Brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudani mayaya. So I direct the wandering of every single living entity, right? And then he says that no matta smrita jnanam apohanam cha. I give the knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness, right? And then janma adyashayata, like the creation, maintenance, and destruction comes from me. These are all paramatma feature of the Lord. No, these are functional aspects of the Lord. No, he creates this world, he maintains this world, he controls this world. Every single action that is happening is completely controlled by the Lord. So all these things are Paramatma feature of the Lord, right? And Bhagavan feature means, oh, this is the Lord is not just beyond matter. The Lord is not just controlling everything. Beyond that, he is such a merciful person. He is such a very wonderful person. Like the personal qualities of the Lord, the like what kind of a nature the Lord has, what kind of things he likes, what kind of actions he does, and all those things. That is all Bhagavan feature of the Lord, and that is obviously it is much much better than the impersonal understanding of the Lord, right? So this is the personality. Personality means what? Personality means, oh, this person is quite chidchida kind of personality, is very very kind of irritable kind of a personality. This person is quite angry kind of a person. This person is a very nice person. So we identify a person by his qualities. So Bhagavan realization means we come to the point of understanding the qualities and features of the Lord personally as a person, right? So Brahman realization means, oh, okay, somebody is there, like beyond this material, somebody is there. That's the Brahman. Paramatma, yeah, like he manages this, he does this, he does that, and all those things. But then Bhagavan is very very personal understanding of the Lord, which is more crystal clear, focused understanding of the Lord. Zoomed out understanding of the Supreme Lord is called the Bhagavan understanding of the Lord. So these three features are very important. This one. So various people who are tattvavits, who understand the absolute truth, they have mentioned, and the Lord also has confirmed. These kind of different kind of understandings people have about me, right? Like that the Lord also has mentioned in many places. So in that way, these three kinds of realizations are there, right? And pratibodha matram is just the opposite conception of material existence. In matter, there is no material. In matter, there are material miseries, and thus, in the first realization of Brahman, there is negation of such material miseries, and there is a feeling of eternal existence distinct from pangs of birth, death, disease, and old age. That is the primary conception of impersonal Brahman. So this is how much is impersonal Brahman. Impersonal Brahman is just stepping into the spiritual realization, and the basic aspect is it is free from all miseries. That's it. That's the understanding of material Brahman. So the Supreme Lord is the supreme soul of everything, and therefore in the supreme conception, affection is realized. So like there is a nice affection and relation that is realized. The conception of affection is due to the relationship of soul to soul. Supreme Lord is soul, and we are also soul. He's Paramatma and we are Anuatma, and we have a relationship between each other, right? So a father is affectionate to his son because there is some relationship of nearness between the son and father. But that sort of affection in material world is full of limitations. When the personality of Godhead is met, the fullness of affection becomes manifest because of the reality of the affectionate relationship, right? So in the material world, father and son is there, but then it is not a permanent relationship. So he will change his body and the son will change his body, and it is not a permanent relationship. But then the Lord and the living entity, mame vamsha jiva bhute jiva loka sanatana. So like this living entities are, the Lord is saying mama amsha, they are my amsha, mame vamsha. So in that way, like the living entities are very very close and very intimately associated with the Lord, and we have a real relationship of father and son, kind of relationship. And when we meet the Lord, we will have complete satisfaction of that relationship with him, right? So he is not the object of affection by material tinges of body and mind, but he is full, naked, uncontaminated object of affection for all living entities, because he is the super soul or Paramatma within everyone's heart. In the liberated state of affairs, the full-fledged affection for the Lord is awakened. Right? So that's the liberated state. In the liberated state, we have complete affection for the Lord is there. And as such, there is an unlimited flow of everlasting happiness without the fear of its being broken, as we have experienced here in the material world. Right? So in the material world, always we have fear. Oh, I may lose my close relative, I may lose my friend, and things like that. But in the spiritual consciousness, oh, I can never lose the Lord. No, there is no question of ever losing the Lord. The Lord is always there as Paramatma, and in my liberated state, in the perfected consciousness, I will always be in union with the Lord. There is no scope for me to lose this relationship, right? So there is no frustration in this relationship. This is definitely there. The relationship with the Lord is never broken, and thus there is no grief and no fear. Such happiness is inexplicable by the words, and there can be no attempt to generate such happiness by fruitive activities, by arrangements and sacrifices. Right? So that kind of happiness, what we will get in association of the Lord, we can never get in any sort of material activities. Right? But we must also know that happiness, unbroken happiness exchanged with the Supreme Person, the personality of Godhead, as described in this verse, transcends the impersonal conception of Upanishads. The Upanishads, the description is more or less negation of the material conception of things, but this is not denial of the transcendental senses of the Supreme Lord. Right? So here it is mentioned that generally the Upanishads talk about like they don't give the personal conception of the Lord. One of the Upanishads Srila Prabhupada has translated is Ishopanishad. We can see that all the description of the Lord is like, oh, that person who's beyond this material nature, who doesn't have material legs, who doesn't ashna viram shuddham apapa viddham, no one who doesn't have veins in his body, one who is pure, and things like that. It will never come to the point of personal description of the Lord. So Upanishads are like that. No, it is very, very indirect. No, they are very indirect pointers to the Supreme Lord. But Srimad Bhagavatam points out the personal feature of the Supreme Lord in full, and that is why Srimad Bhagavatam is Pramanam Amalam. No, it is considered to be the topmost of all the literatures, because it describes the personal feature of the Lord, and it is completely free from any other descriptions. No, any other descriptions. That is why in the beginning of Bhagavatam itself, the Bhagavatam says, Dharma prochida kaitava atra paramo nirmatsaranam satam. What is it? I'm not able to remember the next line. But then, Dharma prochida kaitava atra. So, all the kaitava dharma, or all the cheating religious this ones, or anything that is not describing the Supreme Lord personally, is being kicked out of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is completely pure description about the Supreme Lord in his personal feature, right? So that is why Srimad Bhagavatam is the topmost literature, even more than the Upanishads. So, in the Upanishads, we only have the negation of the material things. Herein also the same is affirmed in the statement that the Supreme Lord is pure, Shuddham, and the word Shuddham indicates that the senses of the personality of Godhead are not made of material elements. They are all transcendental, free from all contamination of material identification. And also the liberated souls are not devoid of senses. Otherwise, there cannot be any reciprocation of unhampered spiritual happiness exchanged between them in spontaneous, unbroken joy. So in the material world, we have material senses which are made or which are designed for sense gratification or material sense enjoyment. But in the spiritual consciousness, we will awaken our spiritual senses, and they are designed for the service of the Supreme Lord. And the Lord also possesses spiritual senses, right? So with the spiritual senses, there is an eternal relationship which is completely spontaneous, unbroken joy, right? So all the senses, both of the Lord and of the devotees, are without material contamination. As I mentioned, it's spiritual senses, right? So they are so because they are beyond the material cause and effect, as clearly mentioned here in Sad Asat Param. So Sad Asat Param. So they are beyond the material good and bad. The illusory material energy cannot work there, being ashamed before the Lord and his transcendental devotees. In the material world, the sense activities are not without grief. No, every sensual activity ends up in grief, right? So what is that? Ehi sansparshaja bhoga dukkhayo nayevate adyantavanta konteya nateshu ramate buddha. Every sense activity must result in grief, right? So, but here it is clearly said that the senses of the Lord and the devotees are without any grief. They are they are sorry. There is a distinct difference between the material and spiritual senses, and one should understand it without denying the spiritual senses because of material conception. The senses in the material world are surcharged with material ignorance in every way. The authorities have recommended purification of the senses from the material conception. In the in the material world, the senses are manipulated for individual and personal satisfaction, whereas in the spiritual world, the senses are properly used for the purpose for which they were originally meant, namely the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Right. So Rishikesha, no, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. No, the senses, original job description of the senses is for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, right? So anybody goes to an office, original job description is that they have to do something for the satisfaction of the boss there, right? So that is when they will get their salary. In the same way, our job description, the census job description of the census, karana, it is called karana. Karana means like, with which we can do some karma. So, and that is like meant for the satisfaction of the Lord, right? So, ejnatat karmano, anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. So karma means it is meant for yajna artha. It is meant for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Now anyatra, apart from that, if I do anything else, it is lokoyam karma bandhana. It binds me of karma, right? So that's the understanding. And okay, so where are we? Such sensual activities are natural, and therefore sense gratification there is sense gratification there is uninterrupted and unbroken by material contamination, because the senses are spiritually purified in the liberated state actually. So, and such satisfaction of the senses is equally shared by the transcendental reciprocators. Who are the reciprocators? The Lord and the living entity, Lord and us. Both of us can equally share that happiness. Since the activities are unlimited and constantly increasing, there is no scope for material attempts or artificial arrangements. Such happiness of transcendental quality is called Brahma Saukyam, which will be clearly described in the 5th canto, Brahma Saukyam to Anantam. Right? So that comes in the 5th canto. So that is the happiness in the spiritual existence. So if we have to have happiness in the spiritual existence, we have to purify our senses, and then with purified senses, when we engage in relation with the Supreme Lord, so that engagement, that reciprocation is called pure devotional service, and that is completely filled with Brahma Sukha. That's completely full of happiness. Right? Text 48. Sadhriyan niyamya yatayoyan kritahetim jahyu swarad ivanipan kanitram indraha. Okay. In such a transcendental state, there is no need of artificial control of the mind, mental speculation, or meditation as performed by jnanis and yogis. One give up such processes as the heavenly king Indra forgoes trouble to dig a well. Right? So, heavenly king Indra, like, no, he is the controller of the rains. He wants water, like he will just create it just like that. So in the same, he will never take the pain of digging a well and getting water. He's the controller of water. He's the controller of all rains in the place. So for him, it is like getting water is just like it's his own potency, right? So in the same way, in the transcendental state, purified state, a person doesn't need to artificially control his mind. He doesn't need to do mental speculation or meditation. Just like jnanis and yogis and are doing. Because in the purified state, their senses are already in control, and their meditation is completely fixed on the Supreme Lord. They don't need to try this now. They're already perfected, in those aspects. Purport. A poor man in want of water digs a well and undertakes the trouble of digging. Similarly, those who are poor in transcendental realization speculate on mind or meditate on by controlling the senses. But they do not know that such control of senses and achievement of spiritual perfection are simultaneously made possible as soon as one is factually engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Person, the personality of Godhead. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayatyashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yadahaitukam. So that Vasudeva Bhagavati, when a person has like Bhakti Yoga towards Vasudev, no, the son of Vasudev, Krishna, so then what happens? No, like this one, Janayatyashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yadahaitukam. Janayati means like takes birth, no? Like what takes birth? Vairagyam, no, which is a byproduct of Jnana Yoga, and then like what is it, Vairagya, and then Jnana. Like all that is this Jnanis and Yogis are struggling very hard and doing their tapasya and things like that to achieve. A Bhakti Yogi, attains as a byproduct. He just attains it as a byproduct. If he just do devotional service to the Supreme Lord, he attains these things as byproducts. Okay, so it is for this reason that the great liberated souls also desire to be associated in hearing and chanting the activities of the Lord. So, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita. What is this Bhakti Yoga? Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnum, Smaranam Pada Sevanam, Marchanam Vandanam Dashyam, Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. These are all considered to be the Navavidha Bhakti, or 9 kinds of Bhakti. So Shravanam is hearing, Kirtanam is speaking about the Lord or glorifying the Lord or chanting the names of the Lord. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, right? So this remembrance of the Lord, this is the aspects of Bhakti. And here we see that, here Prabhupada nicely mentioned, it is for this reason that the great liberated souls also desire to be associated in hearing and chanting the activities of the Lord. So what we are doing now, just hearing and chanting of the activities of the Lord from Srimad Bhagavatam, this is the occupation of great liberated souls. We are somehow or other, we are so fortunate, we are given an opportunity to do such activities which are done by great liberated souls, right? So the example of Indra is very appropriate in this connection. King Indra of heaven is the controlling deity or demigod for arranging clouds and supplying rains in the universe. And as such, he does not have to take trouble to dig a well for his personal water supply. No, for him, digging a well for a water supply is simply ludicrous. Similarly, for those who are factually engaged in loving service of the Lord, have attained the ultimate goal of life, and for them there is no need of mental speculation to find out the true nature of God or his activities, nor do such devotees have to meditate upon the imaginary or real identity of the Lord, because they are factually engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The pure devotees have already achieved the results of mental speculation and meditation. The real perfection of life is therefore to be engaged in transcendental loving service of the Lord. Right? So very nicely put. So text 49. Sa Shreyasham Api Vibhur Bhagavan Yatosya Bhava Svabhava Vihitasya Sata Prasiddhihi Dehe Swadhatu Vigame Anuvishiryamane Vyomeva Tatra Purusho Na Vishiryate Jaha. The personality of Godhead is the supreme master of everything auspicious, because the results of whatever action are performed by the living being in either the material or spiritual existence are awarded by the Lord, right? So he is the master of everything, and everything auspicious, because he is the awarder of the results. He's sometimes called as Varadaraj, like he's the Varadaraj. He's the benefactor of everything. He's the one who gives all the supplies, and either it be spiritual or material. As such, he is the ultimate benefactor. That means one who is the giver, or every individual living entity is unborn, and therefore even after the annihilation of material elementary body, the living entity exists exactly like the air within the body. Okay, so the living entity is unborn and eternal, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 2:30. The living entity is not exhausted even though the material elementary body is vanquished. Um, as long as the living entity is in the material existence, actions performed by him are awarded in the next life or even in the present life. Similarly, in the spiritual life, also actions are rewarded by the Lord by the five kinds of liberation. Hmm. So, like Sayujya, Sayujya Mukti means to merge in the existence of the Lord, or Brahma, merging in the Brahman existence, like impersonal liberation, Sayujya Mukti. Then comes the Mukti of Salokya. No, Salokya means to be in the same planet as the Lord. And then comes what is called as the Sarishti, means the same kind of opulence as the Lord one may have. And then Sarupya, no, one can have the same kind of form as the Lord. And Samipya, no, one can be a personal associate of the Lord. No, he can just be there next to the Lord. So these are all different kinds of liberations, right? So the Lord awards these kind of liberations. Hmm? So that is why he is called as Mukunda, no, one who's awarder of liberation. Even the impersonalists cannot achieve the desired merging into the existence of the Supreme, that is called the Sayujya Mukti, existence of Supreme, without being favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No, even the impersonal liberation has to be got from the personality of Godhead. Right? So it's everything is connected to the personality. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4:11 that the Lord awards similar results as one desires in one's present life. The living entities are given freedom to make their choice, and the Lord awards them accordingly. So we make our different activities, and then Lord awards those results accordingly. It is the duty of everyone, therefore, to worship devotedly only the personality of Godhead to achieve his desired goal. Right? So we have to be very chaste in this relationship. It's not that no, this devata, that devata, like no, I'll go and worship anyone and everyone. So we should have chastity towards the Supreme Lord, and that is why he Lord mentions Mam chayo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate. So that means like avyabhicharena, no, like no, it should not be contaminated with other things. Avyabhicharena, no, so like that. So we should have unalloyed devotional service to the Supreme Lord. The impersonalist, instead of speculating or meditating, can directly execute the routine devotional service of the Lord and thus easily obtain the desired goal, right? So devotional service, by executing devotional service, even the impersonalist desire of merging into the existence of the Lord can easily be got. No, so otherwise the jnanis, no bahunam janmanam ante, like no jnanis have to perform tapasya for so long time. After that, what they get is impersonal liberation. So if they perform devotional service very easily, they will get it. No, if that is their goal. So the devotees, however, are naturally inclined to become associates of the Lord and not merge in the spiritual existence as conceived by the impersonalist. The devotees, therefore, following their constitutional instincts, achieve the desired goal of becoming servitors, friends, fathers, mothers, or conjugal lovers of the Lord. Right. So the devotional service of the Lord involves 9 transcendental processes, such as hearing and chanting. And by performing such easy and natural devotional services, the devotee achieve the highest perfectional result, far, far superior to merging into the existence of the Brahman. The devotees are therefore never advised to indulge in speculating upon the nature of the Supreme or artificially meditating on the void. Right? So we should not speculate upon the Supreme Lord. We can just simply learn from Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? So one should not, however, mistakenly think that after the annihilation of this present body, there is no body by which one can associate with the Lord face to face. The living entity is unborn. It is not that he is manifest with the creation of the material body. On the other hand, it is true that the material body develops only by the desire of the living entity. So it is. We should not think that if I lose this body, I will not have any existence. I will not have any form, or I will not have any existence. But no, beyond this body, we have existence. And in fact, no, because the soul has a form, that is why this body has a form. Sometimes Prabhupada explains, no, we have a shirt, no, the shirt has hands, and then we have a pant has legs. So, but then if you remove the shirt and pant and put it in the floor, it will all collapse, right? So in the same way, no, the matter doesn't have any shape. So because the soul has the shape, the matter also has a shape. The matter is just like a dress. Kasham shijirnani yatha vihaya. No, like so that Krishna explains this particular analogy. This body is just like a shirt on on myself, and when this body is removed, so it will just collapse and it will just get deformed. No, but then the soul has an eternal form, right? And it's only because of the desire of the soul the body actually develops. So the soul, we have a form, the spiritual form, and we can exist on the spiritual form without the help of this material body, right? So that is the liberated state. So the evolution of the material body is due to the desires of the living being. According to the desires of living being, the material body develops. So now, for example, if I just see outside in the sky, oh, some bird is flying, and I'm just thinking, oh, how nice it will be if I can fly like that. Oh, we have booked on body. No, we will, in one of the future lives, we have to become a bird, right? So, and then some horse is running very fast, and then I'm seeing, oh, such fast it is running, like, no, how nice it will be, like, if I have that kind of a capacity. Okay, one more body booked, that I'll have to become a horse in one lifetime. And even appreciating others. No, somebody is very intelligent. Oh, how nice, this person is so intelligent. Okay, another life. Now I have to take birth to be intelligent like that person. No, and then I have to wait for the karma. No, till then my karma develops to get such intelligence. I have to wait to that many number of lifetimes, right? So it every time I desire, oh, I wish I were like that. No, I wish I were like this. Oh god, no, one more body, one more body. Like, no, we are just booking another bodies, right? So that's a this one, that's a problem, right? So we should be very careful. No, more the desires, material desires, more bodies we are actually booking, right? Okay, so there is a question: who told humans to worship demigods? If Lord did not want this, to worship demigods, how such a deep penetration of various gods and goddesses happen in society? It's Lord has given in the Vedic scriptures, no worship of various demigods, because people don't want to worship him. So, like, no, it is Krishna himself given that system, but that is because we have a desire to what is that? We have a desire to get things, and there is that desire to worship somebody is there, and then but worshiping the Supreme Lord is no, it has like people fear, as I was mentioning in the last session, people fear that I will become purified and I'll not have any material desires and things like that and all. So no, Krishna says, okay, fine, you want other forms of worship, I'll give you. No, you can go to this person. No, he is my representative, and probably he can give you something if you please him. No, he has these powers and things like that. He can give you something, right? So, but then I say you, like, no, that's not very good. Please come to me. No, like that. So it is like that. So it is sometimes the if the child is very naughty, the parents may appoint a teacher or something like that, and then appoint somebody like who will be very strict with the child, and sometimes that person may have to discipline the child, and no, he has to be very harsh with the child. Sometimes the parents feel that, oh, why he has to go through so much of trouble? No, he can just be a good boy and he can just be there with me, and I can take care of him nicely, right? So that's the mood and attitude of the Lord. He has arranged things for us for our material enjoyment, but then, if Lord were to be given a personal choice, if, no, Lord, you want me to do this, he will say, no, like, you better come to me, right? So that's the way in which the Lord actually creates the system of demigods and things like that. And these demigods also, why they have come into picture? Because we have desire to control. So people who execute a lot of pious activities and they have desire to control, so then I can become Indra or some big demigod, and I can also receive worship. No, I also have desire to receive worship, right? So I also want to have some control. Why only the Lord is controlling? I also want to have some control. I also want people worshiping me. I also want to give boons to people and things like that. Okay, fine. No, you become a demigod. No, you become a demigod. People will come and worship you. You keep supplying the needs and necessities for them. So you also, like, you want to be like me. The Lord says, okay, you want to be like me. Okay, you become a demigod. You try it out. No? So how nice it is, like that. So in this way, like, the gods and goddesses, like, if we want control, we will become gods and goddesses. And if we want some cheap material things, then we will go to these gods and goddesses and ask for things, right? And okay, since the living being is eternal, he exists just like the air within the body. Air is within and without the body. Therefore, when the external covering, the material body, is vanquished, the living spark, like the air within the body, continues to exist. And by the direction of the Lord, because he is ultimate benefactor, the living entity is at once awarded the necessary spiritual body befitting his association with the Lord in the manner of sarupya. No, just before we discussed. So sayujya is discounted here. Only other four will be described here. Sayujya means like to merge in the existence of the Lord. That is aspired by the impersonalist. But the Vaishnavas, we don't aspire the Sayujya Mukti. We don't want to become one with the Lord. No, then there is no opportunity to serve the Lord, reciprocate with the Lord, and no things like that. So we don't want that kind of a mukti. No, we want any one of these four kinds of mukti. That is sarupya. No, sarupya means equal bodily feature. Rupa. No, we can imagine the rupa. No, sarupya. So exactly a same form like the Lord, right? And salokya. Loka means where people can live. No, so salokya means wherever the Lord is living. No, in the same planet, I will also be getting an opportunity to live. That is like equal facility to live on the same planet with the Lord. That is salokya. And sarishti. Sarishti means the opulence. No, equal possessions of opulence like the Lord. And then samipya. No, samipya is like very easy to understand. No, very close. No, in Hindi also, like I think no, this word is used, samipya. So like it's very close, equal association with the Lord. No, it's very close associate of the Lord. No, a person can become. So these are all four different kinds of liberation. After discounting the sayujya. Sayujya is the merging in the existence of the Lord. That a devotee doesn't want. Right? So the Lord is so kind that even if a devotee of the Lord cannot fulfill the complete course of devotional service, unalloyed and uncontaminated by material association, he is given another chance in the next life by being awarded a birth in the family of a devotee or a rich man, so that without being engaged in the struggle for material existence, the devotee can finish the remaining purification of his existence, and thus immediately after relinquishing the present body, go back home, back to Godhead. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. So this is the mercy of the Lord. If I am not able to finish in the next life, wherever I have left, I will start from that point. No, whatever devotional service I have performed, it will not be a loss. No, on the contrary, if I become like a very, very educated person, very accomplished person in this material world, I am a CEO of a big company or something like that. And in the next life, again, I have to start from ABCD, right? So I cannot start from where I have left. But in devotional service, I've attained some status and I can start from that particular status in the next life. That's the guarantee of the devotional life, right? So in this connection, detailed information is given in Bhagavad Sandarbha of Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada. Once achieving the spiritual existence, the devotee is eternally situated there, and as already discussed in the previous verse. So no, we will not lose our devotional credit, right? Okay, so the topic of desire, the question is there, topic of desire and more birth. Should we then say we are satisfied with this life, what we have, and never express desire, followed by another prayer to get rid of materialistic life and go back home? Yeah, so we cannot, Srila Prabhupada explains in this connection that the soul means, the spirit soul means consciousness. Consciousness means there is desire is there. So I cannot completely nullify my desire. I cannot make my desire zero. So if I don't want to have material desires and prolong my material existence here, then I should transform my desires to spiritual desires, right? So like I can desire that, oh, I can make a nice boga for the Lord. I can nicely worship the Lord. I can nicely chant the names of the Lord. No, I can serve other people also. And I can try to connect them to the Lord. And in this way, like I can have a lot of unlimited spiritual desires, and the spiritual desires will award us a spiritual body, and material desires will award us a material body, right? So, and when we have spiritual desires, so then we end up in the spiritual world, getting one of those four kinds of liberations, right? So that's the byproduct of the spiritual desire. Now, if I have intense desire to serve the Lord, so then I will get spiritual body with which I can serve the Lord. If I have desire to have some material things, then I will have material body. If I am there somewhere in between, what will happen? So that's what Prabhupada is mentioning here. I've got some spiritual desire and I've got some material desire. And because I have not been completely purified of all material desires, I may have to take another birth, but it will not be in vain. Whatever spiritual growth I have got, I will have all of it intact, right? All of it intact. So, and also Srila Prabhupada often mentions that we should try to perfect our life in this very lifetime, right? So we should try to attain Krishna in this very lifetime, and we should try to absorb ourselves in Krishna consciousness. And it is so simple. The Lord's glories and the Lord's pastimes are so attractive. Srimad Bhagavatam is so attractive. We can just completely be immersed in the thoughts of the Lord, and we will actually get the ultimate destination. And in fact, it is a very nice this one. As we grow older and as we approach the old age, we become invalid and we become useless in the society. Useless in the society, useless in the family also. Not many people will give any respect and things like that. So generally, I've seen old age people are quite disturbed, and they're not able to get the same kind of attention from people. Their words are not taken very seriously and things like that. They're always in moroseness. But if we imagine, when we have sufficient energy in the body, if we can get this taste of Krishna consciousness, then old age is a bliss actually. Nobody is going to disturb us. Nobody is even going to pay any attention to us. And we will just be fully immersed in the bliss of Krishna consciousness, and we can peacefully pass away from this life, right? So that's a very nice thing actually. We can actually prepare ourselves nicely, and in that way, like we can face the difficult situations of the life in a very nice way, in a very joyous way, right? So we have another 5-7 minutes. How much big is this next sloka? Okay, it is a small sloka, we can read. Soyam te abhitastata bhagavan vishvabhavanah samasena hare nanyat anyasmat sadasachayat. My dear son, so this is Brahmaji is speaking to Narada. My dear son, I have now explained in brief the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the creator of the manifested worlds. Without him, Hari, the Supreme Lord, Hari the Lord, there is no other cause. There is no other causes of the phenomenal and nominal existence. Right? Purport. Since we generally have the experience of the temporary material world and conditioned souls trying to lord it over the material worlds, Brahmaji explained to Narada Dev that this temporary world is the work of the external potency of the Lord, and that the conditioned souls struggling here for existence are marginal potency of the Lord, the personal of the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. There is no cause for all these phenomenal activities but him. So he's the Sarva Karana Karanam. He's the cause of everything. That is Hari, the Supreme Lord, who is the primeval cause of all causes. This does not mean, however, that the Lord himself is distributed impersonally, right? So because the Lord has created so many things has come out of him. So now the God has no existence, right? So many things are taken out of the Lord, and Lord has lost his personality. So that is not the case. Ishopanishad says, Om Purnamata Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avasishyate. So many complete units are taken out of the Lord, and what remains is still the complete Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So that's the spiritual mathematics. Spiritual mathematics is 1 + 1 is 1, 1 - 1 is also 1. So the Lord is one, and Lord can manifest innumerable creations, still the Lord is one. And if all the creation is again merged back into him, still the Lord is one. Right? So the Lord is always, he is the Sarva Karana Karanam. Right? So he is aloof from all these interactions of the external and marginal potencies. In the Bhagavad Gita 9.4, it is confirmed that by his potencies alone, he is present everywhere and anywhere, no? And then everything that is manifested rests on his potency, his potency only. But he, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always aloof from everything. Anyone remembers this sloka? This is a very Maya Tatamidam Sarvam Jagat Avyakta Murtina Matstani Sarva Bhutani Nachaham Teshva Avastita. Yeah, so this is the sloka. So Nacha Aham Teshva Avastita. No, it is not that I am distributed everywhere. Like it is my energies. No, Parasha Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate. Maya Tatamidam Sarvam. No, everything Jagat Avyakta Murtina. I maintain and sustain this whole material, whole creation just by my energies. Jagat Avyakta Murtina, right? And Matstani Sarva Bhutani. Everything rests in me, but I am not there in them, right? So it is very, very interesting sloka of Bhagavad Gita, and it is nicely put over here. It is just by the potency of the Lord, the energies of the Lord is pervading everything, right? So Lord is pervading everything. So one should not deprecate the Supreme Lord for the creation of this material world, just as one should not blame the king for creating a prison house in the government. The prison house is necessary institution of the governmental establishment for those who are disobedient of the laws of the government. Similarly, this material world full of miseries is a temporary creation of the Lord for those who have forgotten him and trying to lord it over the false manifestation. He, however, is always anxious to get the fallen souls back home, back to Godhead. And for this, he has given so many chances to the conditioned souls via the authoritative scriptures, his representatives, and personal incarnations also, right? So so many avenues the Lord is creating for the living entities to get back to the spiritual world. Since he has no direct attachment to the material world, he is not to be blamed for its creation. No, who is to be blamed for its creation? For the creation of the material world, we are to be blamed. We wanted a place separate from the Lord. We wanted a place where we can be the controllers and masters. And there comes the byproduct of all the anxieties, miseries, and problems and things like that. Right? So the Lord just, we wanted it, and Lord just gave it to us. So I think we should stop here. So we will continue tomorrow again. And also we have Radhashtami coming up. So we are trying to line up few speakers. On the Radhashtami day evening, we have Amarinder Prabhu coming, addressing our congregation here. And then we are trying to fix up some speakers in the morning and the previous day also. So we will be informing you all those things, and you can take advantage of this, of the Association of Devotees, and hearing about Srimati Radharani, right? So Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, and also like devotees can offer